What's up, you guys? My name is Kat, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My dogs have been very annoying the entire time I've been setting up, so I'm feeling this one in particular is going to try and get on my lap the whole time. If you've never been to my channel, welcome. This is just kind of a space where I can talk about craft, take a little bit of a break from the week, kind of round up new things I'm working on, talk about whatever else might come to mind. You see my dogs ever in the shot. They are Ziggy and Queenie. This one's Ziggy here next to me. He's my baby boy. And they are both young corgis. Ziggy is 2, Queenie is a little over 1. And they are a lot, but we love them very much. And you can't get in my lap, honey bunch. You can't. Can you give me a kiss? But you can't say no to that face, can you? No. No. I also apologize. I was not thinking at all. And I definitely started the dishwasher right before that, which is right over here in our kitchen. I apologize for, I keep saying sorry. I shouldn't apologize. I'm trying out a new location for filming. So this is the 3rd place in my house I've filmed from. We get really good light in our living room. This is one corner of it. I filmed from a different corner last week. Although it is a little bit kind of gloomy today. We've had some really crazy storms here in Michigan the past few days, which has been different. I like the rain personally, but it got really cold, and it's been it was a really long weekend for me. I have a pretty crazy job, so it was nice to have just kind of like really slow, kind of moody few days, just to kind of recharge the battery a bit. I admit, I feel like, and I know a lot of people are like this, that I go, and then all of a sudden I'm spent. And so it's part of why I started knitting in the first place. I have really bad anxiety, and in college I was looking for a way to kind of help myself and almost meditate. And while I dabbled in knitting in the past, it's kind of when I really started getting into it as something of a practice for me. And although at certain seasons and at certain times in my life I've maybe knitted a little bit less, it's a very comforting place for me. And I admit nowadays especially, I feel like I'm always knitting, partly because I'm pushing myself to get better, and I'm really focused on that right now in my craft and in stretching myself, and so I'm taking the time and effort to practice. But also I think because I just don't necessarily like feeling idle. While I love to rest, and I feel like taking time for yourself is really so important and something I personally preach, you know, I also feel like if I'm sitting in front of the TV or I'm listening to an audiobook, I could be doing something else. And so knitting a lot of times is that something else for me. And it also just helps me keep my mind active and connected, even if it is something fairly repetitive. Well, if you haven't already, maybe grab a cup of something and we can dive in to some knitting. I'm currently drinking mystery tea. I haven't taken a sip yet because it's very, very hot, but it's taking me so long to set up in this corner that it steeped, which, you know, if you're an herbal tea drinker, you know, you can pretty much let that go a while. But I admit I only really drink herbal tea. I'm also a huge coffee drinker, but I do tend to cut myself off at a certain point just because I do eventually get jittery and do occasionally have trouble sleeping if I drink coffee too late. So perfect day for an herbal tea. Let's give it a shot. No clue. I have no idea what that is. I actually am gonna let it steep a little bit longer. So while I'm going to do that, you go grab a cup of something and we'll meet after. You know, the only thing I know for sure was in that was turmeric because the color was gorgeous. So where to begin today? I am not wearing too much knitwear. This is a secondhand, I think these are both actually secondhand garments, this shirt and this cardigan. Definitely recommend if you have any friends that are shopaholics, get close and then you get cast-offs. And then this is one of my Sophie scarves. I've been wearing these a ton lately. I just think they're so fun and they really kind of push me to try something new in my fashion, which I love to do anyway. So it's been a nice little accessory to add to the closet. Okay, well, this is my knitting bag of the moment. I tend to switch out every few weeks because I am one of those people that will use a purse until it is full of garbage. And then I'll just take everything I want back out of the purse into another purse. And then I will leave the garbage purse hanging in my closet until I decide I want it again. And while that probably sounds absolutely crazy, it's true. If you go in my closet, I've got all these hanging hooks behind the door, and they're all, you know, bags and accessories and things like that. And all of those purses are absolutely full of trash. We actually went to Chicago this past weekend just for the night on Saturday to go see one of our favorite bands in concert. And I decided to grab a bag to use as an overnight bag. And I had to empty out a ton of trash, and I haven't thrown it away. I don't know why my brain works like this, but for whatever reason, I hoard everything. I love this blue. Isn't that just the most beautiful icy blue? Well, and I admit, though I didn't really make this for myself, I do think this is a great color for me. And I was thinking, I actually have a bunch more yarn, almost in this exact same color, maybe a little bit less on the green side, that I bought from a local yarn processor. Oh my god, my brain is just not even. I'm gonna let that one go. Anyway, so this has been my working in front of the TV project. I cast this on last week, you might remember. It was just a big stockinette tube. And it has been finished. I actually finished this at my knitting group on Monday. And I do think that this is just such a darling little hat. Again, this is the Oslo hat pattern from Petite Knit. Yeah, I've not blocked it yet. I'm working on a second one. Surprise. So I figured I'd wait and I'd block them both together. But it does have this kind of, you turn it at a certain point, and so it ends up having this purling section and this kind of channel, this recess that helps it lay really nicely. But I'm hoping once it's blocked, it really does lay very nicely, and you get a very crisp long brim, because it was a lot of stockinette, and I want that to be a thick, chunky brim. But this is probably just going to end up being given to somebody for Christmas. No idea who. Just trying to start off this kind of winter knitting season by just knocking out some big projects, and then that way I can turn the attention back to doing stuff that I really want to do. Sorry to say, but I also feel like, you know, if I put together a few things and with no real plan, they'll go to somebody. So that one is not yet spoken for, but think very cute. And this other one, I guess I'll go ahead and show the second one I've started making, and this is the exact same yarn. This is Barocco Lana's Light. This one is in a beautiful kind of sage green color. And this is very nice wool, very fairly soft. I admit I don't always love wearing wool hats. I tend to just get really itchy across the forehead, and having put the other one, the finished one, on a few times, I've not noticed any particular itchiness, so good one to remember for me. But this one's coming along. I got about 4 inches done last night while I was just in front of the TV. 4 or 5? No, it's 4. You always try and overestimate, but then you get out the measuring tape and you're like, yeah, I probably could have guessed it was actually that. You know? So hat number 2 coming up. And then in the same vein of small works in progress, I have been working on a pair of mittens for my sister. This was her request for Christmas. As I mentioned in my previous video, I actually sent a Google Forms sheet, like a little survey, to my parents and my sister, just to find out what, if anything, they wanted this year for Christmas, what kind of colors, any sort of fiber preferences, that kind of thing. And for the most part, they, you know, just said use your best judgment, which I will. Thank you. But I showed these last week, I believe, 2 balled up skeins of, this is a Wonderland Yarns, the Mary Ann fingering, which is a blend of cotton, wool, and nylon, I believe, or maybe, no, this one's superwash wool and nylon, but it's very soft. Haven't really noticed any issues so far working with it. I'm feeling it's going to wash really well and hopefully wear really well for a long time. You know, I feel like anytime you make something like mittens or something with like a special color work pattern, things like that, you know, these in a lot of ways are meant to be worn and fixed up and taken care of and loved for many, many years, and should have a very special meaning to the person, ideally, you know. So with that, I have been working on this pattern. It's called the March Hare, and this is a beautiful colorwork pattern, very light mitten. This is fingering weight yarn, like I said, and I have been working this up on a pair of US 2s, and it has been really fun, actually, to get into this pattern. I used to do quite a bit of color work. I really loved it for a long time, and I've kind of stepped away lately, kind of focusing on more single color things and flexing my skills by trying different kind of construction techniques or stitch techniques. So it is fun in a way to go back to something as simple and comforting as a mitten. So yeah, and then you can't, I admit, and I went back and forth on this a little bit. I actually took this to my knitting group on Monday when it was about here, and I said, what do you think? Because with the 2 variegated yarns and the change of color from the hand dye, I wasn't sure that you could really see the pattern, and I was a little concerned, and you know, they told me to just go with my gut, keep going. So, and I would say on the back, or the inside, really, it is a little bit harder to discern. Technically, these are kind of like drooping flowers, like little snowdrops, just kind of poking out of the snowy earth. And it is a little bit harder to see these motifs, but I do love the kind of painterly effect of these 2 yarns in tandem. And it's quite funny, actually, because both of them have at the lightest hue, like a little bit of like a very light pinky, almost purple at times color in common, and I do think it helps kind of blend them together. But obviously I still need, this is the left mitten, I still need the thumb, but I just finished working the body up this morning. I'm so excited to show you guys. Yeah, so just need to pop a thumb on this bad bear and do a second one. Probably, in my opinion, the worst part of doing anything that has to match, like socks or mittens, is you have to go do the second one. But I do always find it knits up so much quicker having done it once. So yeah, these are going to be the majority of my works in progress right now. I did start, oh, I totally forgot. I actually have a couple more things to show you. So this one, I believe I'd shown you last week or the week before. This is a blue sky worsted cotton yarn that I purchased at a yarn store up north. I started working the body. You can see some of the cabling that I'm working on there for a sweater for my partner Mike. And this I all worked up last night. I was in a little bit of a cast on happy mood, I guess, because I cast on a new hat and this yesterday. Yeah, I'm gonna wait and go to the store and buy a longer needle before I do any more on this. But this is part of the Billy pullover pattern, which is beautiful. It's almost completely cabled all over the entire sweater, a raglan construction. I'm super excited to really get into the body of it and get it going. It does start knitted flat, and you do join them together in the round. So yeah, so I'm a few rows short of that right now. Like I said, gonna wait and hopefully get to the store later on today and be able to continue doing that, because I do love, especially after all of these little projects. I mean, this is technically a sport weight, this Barocco, and the mittens, like I said, are fingering. But after all of these little needles and super fine yarn, it is so nice to just start working up something chunky again. Although I also had, speaking of going a little cast on crazy, I also started this yesterday, which I am probably going to pull out. I wasn't sure I wanted to show you guys this. So this is actually a free pattern, and I'm blanking on the name, but essentially it's like cocktail umbrella cowl or something. But basically it's just meant to be kind of a long necked cowl that just goes under a coat or something along those lines. And I totally changed the pattern. I started doing something crazy. I added a cable texture, and I changed the way all the increases went, and I just don't really care for it. So I think I'm just gonna scrap it and do something else, especially because I actually just realized that I have 3 full skeins of this, as well as all of this to use. So I think I'm gonna save it and maybe do an So apologies for the ruckus. My dogs do that a few times a day. We call it the witching hour, and they just kind of go crazy and bark at each other. I don't know if anybody else got a COVID puppy, but we got 2. And they're a joy. Okay. So I think they finally stopped. So to continue, yeah, I have a whole bunch of this yarn. This is a super bulky weight. I used this to make the Lumpy sweater not too long ago, which I've been wearing like crazy. I thought about wearing it again today, and I decided give it a rest. But it is so comfortable, and this yarn is so soft. This is the Cloudborne Fibers Highland Roving, which I really enjoy wearing, but I have to say, working with it huge pain. Starting this yesterday and just working up this, my arm, I was having pains right here all night, even when I stopped working on this and I started working on something else. It's really hard to do all this super bulky. And I remember when I was working on that sweater a couple weeks ago, the first day was pretty rough, and then after that it got a little bit easier and it didn't feel as painful, but not fun. And while I do think that I'm gonna be really sick of fingering weight yarn here soon, it's not nearly as much wear and tear, it feels like, as this bulky stuff. But that said, since I've got quite a bit of this, I think maybe I've had my eye on the Holiday Slipover by Petite Knit, which I would totally wear as well, and maybe I actually will do with some additional ease. I know I tend to wear kind of tight fitting garments, but I do love how in her example it's got a little bit of drape, probably 2 to 4 inches of positive ease. So something I'll think about, but for the moment I admit this is definitely on the back burner while I've got 3 other projects. But I am waiting currently on a very special delivery. I have finally decided to stop being so cheap, which I am, and I totally admit that I am. And I purchased a yarn swift to help ball some yarn, because I've been doing it the old-fashioned way. I won't deny, and it's just not worth my time or effort anymore. And especially considering my last kind of yarn haul, which I showed you guys last week, I bought quite a few hanks of yarn, and they all need to be balled up. After doing just a few for these projects, I was like, you know what? No, I think I'll wait to start everything else until I can get this wound up differently. But that said, I don't know if you recall or if you watched my last episode, but I do have a cable knit poncho that I'm going to be doing for my mother out of another Wonderland Yarns fiber, as well as the Rowan Kid Silk Haze mohair, and I cannot wait to start working on it. I just think it's going to be absolutely gorgeous, and I just can't wait to get it started. But no yarn acquisitions this week. I admit dropping over $300 last week on yarn kind of was a big hit, and obviously I am not hurting for projects right now, so I am gonna wait. But that said, seeing all of these videos and these hauls that people have from Rhinebeck, oh my god, one of these years I would so love to go, but my wallet was hurting for them. Like I said, I admit to being fairly cheap, and that would test me pretty hard. But so glad for everybody who made it out there. It seems like people had just a fantastic time. And like I said, a good goal for another year. And there was actually a knitter from my knitting circle who went this year with a good friend of hers. She's Belgian, and her friend flew in, and they were going to go out there and then go up to Maine. So I can't wait to see them next week and get to talk to them about their time and their experiences and all this wonderful travel they've been able to do, as well as see what all they've bought. We were asking them before they left, like, do you have a budget in mind? Because I gotta be honest, I feel like I couldn't go and not probably spend, $500 at least, if not more. Especially, to go every day and all the different events that they have would be really, really hard. I couldn't go with my boyfriend, that's for sure, because I would just feel so guilty every time I got out my credit card. Because he would just be looking at me like, what? But I don't know, maybe I'll find some fiber friends and have a girls trip one of these years and get to experience it for myself. So I guess that's really all I have to talk about today. I hope wherever you are that you are enjoying this glorious fall, this wonderful October. Getting very excited here for Halloween, and you know, getting to soak up the last of these fleeting kind of moments. I don't know. To me, it's been a season of change. It's been a season of kind of searching, you know, and it's been a very bittersweet. Saying goodbye to summer, hello to winter. It's, yeah, very poetic. Well, have a great day, and talk to you soon.